Over the last 3 weeks, I've presented a series of columns discussing the myth of a post-racial America. And through interviews with students and LSU faculty members, it has become apparent that the American idea of what racism is doesn't exactly line up with how racism works in our nation.
I think racism is best understood as a structural and historical phenomenon, something that's woven into our day-to-day laws, practices. As a communication scholar, I'm interested in how it manifests in our language. But it's something that's above and beyond the actions of individuals, but something that actually shapes our relationships to each other.
I'm afraid to have a black son. Why am I afraid? My best friend is 6'5", 240 pounds. How is it that we both fit the description? Maybe I'll go to dinner with Paula Deen and she can serve me collard greens. And she can teach me the meaning behind I have a dream speech. Last night, I had a dream that Martin Luther King shot George Zimmerman. That sounds like poetic justice. Poetic justice if I told you that I was a black rose that grew from the concrete. Would you trust it? Let us celebrate Black history.
Racism, what is it? I think in this country, especially like in news or in regular conversation, we get racism and bigotry confused. Like bigotry is if you call me a nigger, right? Like, or you call me a porch monkey, something crazy like that. That's bigotry, right? Racism is the system that allows you to be able to have the privilege to say that to me and live and continue on. And me getting a text message saying, look out for 3 black men in a van. And I'm never gonna text message on this campus about anything, preferably Caucasian, white, or any other Asian, anything. So, and I'm a black man that comes outside and I wear hoodies every day.
In addition to asking why this particular LSU student felt inclined to make up a kidnapping story at all, why was her default a black male, right? And we can also ask, what does a text message like that do to any black male on LSU's campus, right? Because if all we know is that they are a black male, then literally every black male on LSU's campus becomes an object of suspicion, and that's a burden that I, for instance, as a white male or a white male student at LSU doesn't have to carry.
Racism is no longer a series of violent attacks or hatred of one race, but it's become a system in which one race triumphs over another and benefits from the oppression of that race.
Another great example is like if you go to the 459 or the 5, look who's serving the food. If you live on campus, look who's cleaning the rooms. They don't look like you, they look like me. They're like my mother and my aunts. But look who's teaching me. Look who's in administrative positions. Look who's in positions of actual power. And look how we actually subjugate and block off people. It's very easy to stereotype and then implement that stereotype on LSU's campus.
Racism is a structural force. It's a matter of power. And while you may find prejudice from members of racial and ethnic minority groups against white individuals, those negative attitudes are not going to have a serious impact on my life chances.
Improperly defining racism, claiming a lack of discriminatory laws, and denying race as an important part of someone's identity are all ways that we are perpetuating the idea of racism not being prevalent in America.
We are carrying the weight of over 400 years of institutional racism, ranging from slavery to Jim Crow to what race scholars today call the new racism, which is a little more insidious and inconspicuous, but nonetheless very strong. And those things are not going to fix themselves. They're not going to balance themselves out. We need proactive measures.
And I think we also forget, this is messy, right? I don't have the answers no more than anyone else has the answers. But it has to be messy. Let's engage. Let's not just call it the N-word. Say nigger. Let's stop. You're thinking the word nigger. Say it. You know what I mean? Let's get it out there. Let's get messy with it, because you're never going to get anywhere if you just keep talking points. If you just hit it with talking points, if you just point the finger, or let's talk. How do you really feel? Let's get that, and then we can start making better choices towards humanity.
I'm reminded of kind of the legendary gay rights leader Harvey Milk's famous injunction to come out, and certainly he was first and foremost asking gay men and women to come out, because that gives you a certain degree of power in terms of demanding your rights. But I think it was a call on all of us to be forthright and to be robust in terms of what we're interested in confronting and challenging. And if we're going to stand a chance against racism, we need to be willing to make ourselves uncomfortable, but also be willing to make other people uncomfortable. And historically, that's how change happens.
America has overcome slavery, granted all races the right to vote, and elected a black president for 2 consecutive terms. But it's not enough. We have to start by facing the truth that we are not a post-racial America and begin actively fighting against our learned racism.